Hey everyone, welcome back to Bros and Shows. I am your host, Josiah, aka Mauler67. And with me, as always, I got my buddy, I got my pal, I got my brother Austin. Austin, how you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Doing okay? That's good to hear, man. Good to hear. I made the bad decision of I'm going to take a nap before show start. And I laid down in my bed and I forgot I had the fan in the window and it became night and the room got really cold. So I'm in my little
Nice fuzzy robe.
my little robe to be warm. My hands are cold, so I'm going to constantly have my hands in my pocket for the most part of the show, which is fine. Man, how was your weekend? How was your
It was a very busy weekend, and for viewers that are watching on Twitch, I'll show you how busy my weekend is. This is a little different right now. If you see, I actually have moved. It was a lot of work. Do you remember when I showed you, I think it was like Friday or whatever, I showed you all those boxes in this room? Yeah, we're down to like this. So like we've been like,
you've been working, you've been doing stuff. Yeah.
It's been just a lot, trying to like get things in the basement because we have storage now and like just everything else. So like, it's been a struggle.
It's been 1 week. Yeah.
Yeah. Whoa. I had midterms like in the middle, all of it. And it just, it's just rough. It was really rough, just trying to get everything done.
Are you done with all that though? Like
I did my last one on Monday, so I get my grade tomorrow, so I don't have a problem. I think I'm good on it because they're two classes that I love, so I don't think there's going to be a problem with it. So
okay.
And I actually get to read a book that I haven't read in a while. My class is American Literature Part 2. Yeah, it's Part 2. So like they gave me like a list of like 500 books to read, and one of the books was on there. I was like, ooh, I want to reread that book. So I am reading American Gods by Neil Gaiman, which is one of my favorite Neil Gaiman books. So yeah, I get to read like 2 chapters a week, and then I do a discussion board. But yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And I really enjoy that class. It's reading pretty much and learning American literature, and then the other one is British literature. The other one's British literature, so like I have to read British stuff, which is actually pretty interesting because a lot of people that you would never guess wrote that stuff is British or European. So like it's been interesting, so I'm pretty stoked that I have those 2 classes and I'm doing really well in them. So yeah, it's been, just stressful, even though I know I could do it and I can pass that stuff. It's always in the back of my head. Like, whoa, what if you forgot this? And you're like, no. So yeah, it's just been a little stressful, but overall overcoming it. This week, I think will be a lot easier because we'd have a lot of the unpacking done. So like, it's kind of like, we kind of like can sit back and just be like, oh man,
enjoy the house for once.
Enjoy it for a minute, yeah.
So, that's normally how it goes with all that stuff. You kind of go through all the hardship of moving and everything, and then you're finally able to breathe. So, glad that you guys have moved on to that point and got that going on for you. And hopefully you do good in your test, Austin.
Yeah.
The apocalypse. This week we watched the TV show X Used to Be Game series that got adapted into the show of The Last of Us. Just to begin, when this was announced, you were really excited. I have never played The Last of Us. It's not really my type of game. I don't really care for like the third person game. It's also one of the reasons why I have a slowness to start the God of War sequel series, even though like I've heard nothing but good things. Same with Last of Us, I've heard nothing but good things. I'm just not very big on that third person perspective.
Stuff. I get that.
But with that being away, I don't know anything about the show, and so I dived into it, and to help with spoilers that you were like warning me about and everything, because people are going to talk about it because it's already came out a long time ago, and the show is going same or different. And people are going to talk about that. I've been consistently watching every episode until the last like 3 episodes, and then I stopped. So,
Which is perfect, you know.
well, luckily enough, like I got the gist of everything going on,
Yeah.
and so like the spoilers that I probably saw, I had no context for, and I didn't know what was going on. Like there were some things I could assume what was going to happen. One of the things I did like assumed correctly. So okay, I mean that's what it is. So Austin, let's dive into our discussion of The Last of Us. I guess season 1, because they're apparently going to make a season 2.
Yes.
With the time jump that apparently happens in games.
Yes.
I've watched gameplay of the second one, because right when the second one came out, we were letting our friend Andrew stay at our house, and he was a big fan of Last of Us. So he got, and I was watching him play The Last of Us
Part 2.
Part 2. And it was very enjoyable for me to watch of what I've seen. I remember there was a lot of backlash on that. So I am aware of like there was a time skip or something.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't think about that, but I mean I guess there's also spoilers to the thought process of a character that's in it. So that wasn't really I didn't really think about that until just now as I was saying it. I was like, oh wait, yeah, I should have realized that, but in the moment my brain was like, oh no,
Didn't think about it.
maybe.
Yeah.
So Austin, what do you think of The Last of Us on
HBO Max?
HBO Max?
I enjoy Last of Us. There was a lot of great things that they did differently, and then there was some things that they did the same, which I have no problem with. You don't want to stray too far off that path, because you will get people angry at you for going way too far off the path. Especially with like main character developments and like main character like arcs. There's some things that change. That there was only like really one complaint I kind of even had through the whole series, and that was it. But overall, like I enjoyed it. I think Pedro Pascal is my daddy. Like everyone else's daddy. I think Bella Ramsey, a lot of people, a lot of critics, a lot of people on the internet thought she was not going to be a good Ellie, but I think she played a fantastic Ellie, believable, and the two duo work really well together. And I really liked the chemistry that they had on screen, and I liked where they went with this show. And I understand, a lot of people were upset because there was only 9 episodes, and they're like, why don't you just make it 10? And I don't know if there was enough content for that, unless you're gonna like get in the content of like, doing a whole bunch of like the random weird stuff that you have to do in the story, like when you fight and stuff, which they kind of hit those points. I don't think there would have been a great translation, but this is a very good translation from the game overall, and I think they also fixed a huge problem. And that would have been, because that was something that bothered me, was the infection. Like going into the game, the infection is very like kind of like an airborne thing. So like it would be difficult because there is like scenes with like people in gas masks and stuff like that in the game where you have to wear stuff because you're going into like an area that's very infected. I like how they changed it to like a flower type yeast thing.
Yeah.
I really thought that was a well done thing. I was really shocked.
The funny thing is once that happens, it makes complete sense why so many people got instantly hit.
And I love the foreshadowing that they kind of like play on the first episode where she was like, are you gonna eat pancakes? And he's like, no, I'm not gonna eat pancakes. I don't like cookies. Like, stuff
it's like,
like that.
I don't want any cookies. I don't want any of your cookies because I'm just hungry. Or, oh, you want
Atkins.
biscuits? Oh, I'm on Atkins. Oh, I forgot the
Yeah.
birthday cake. Oh, darn.
Yep. Just those
Yeah,
good plays.
After the first episode, me and you started sending TikToks to each other about the stuff. And that was one of the things that someone pointed out, like in a TikTok, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll send this to Austin. He probably knows this.
Yeah. So yeah, I was pretty excited. We also got to see someone from Silicon Valley play a small role in this series at the beginning. He the guy that played Big Head, yeah. So yeah.
My brain, I'm pretty sure he was in Fanboy.
I'm pretty sure he was too. I don't remember though. I haven't watched Fanboys. Wow, in a long time.
Yeah, Fanboys.
That's one of those movies where that's like one of those movies that like I thought was gonna be like this great movie, and it was okay. Like it wasn't anything to like write home about. Like where I was like, this is an awesome movie. It's more of like it was good. Like I don't think I'll watch it like a lot, but it was good. You know, I like Dan Fogerty. He's one of my favorite comedian actors. He's not really in anything anymore, which is interesting. And then Paul, what's his name? Paul Dabino. The guy actually just he did the role of the Riddler in the Batman movie. He's a really good actor.
All right,
though.
never mind. He wasn't in Fanboys at all.
Oh, he wasn't.
I mixed him up with another person, and then after I saw that person, I went, that's who I thought it was. And then seeing the other character makes me regret that I didn't pick this other show that I was going to have you watch.
Ooh,
but the reason why I didn't pick it is because there's 4 seasons to it. And one of the season is not available on natural like obtaining ways. Like you have to like buy it essentially. So I'm like, I really want to do it, but I don't want to force people to buy it. And I don't know if it's available on other streaming sites because I did not look into that again. So that's my life. That was a great little thing he was in. The second he showed up, I was like, oh, I recognize this guy. I've seen him before. I know him from stuff, and of course I misknew him from something. But it was good. It was a solid first like series of episodes. So yeah, like I said, I have no context for things going into it. I was very, very new to it. The only thing I really knew about The Last of Us going in was it was a show, a game about a man and a woman going through post-apocalyptic world. And I think what else? Oh, I knew about the infected, like the fungal infected, because whenever I was at game school I went to, the AIP, we had in one of the classes we had to make a game, and one of the game concepts we came up with was like this spaceship survival horror game where there was like a space fungus that has taken over the ship essentially. And we were like, I did the concept art for different parts of it and everything, and the one thing they said is like, we can't make it like The Last of Us. Like, we don't want the fungal to be like The Last of Us. And whenever I was working on it, I'm like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what The Last of Us is. And they're like, you don't know what Last of Us is? I'm like, no, what is it for? It's like, it's for the PS4 or PS3. I forget which one it came out on. And I was like, oh, I haven't played on a PlayStation since like PS2. So I that's probably why I never played it. They're like, oh, okay. And so whenever I was doing the concept, they're like, don't worry, this is nothing like it. Like, yeah, I was doing like weird, like shiitake mushroom style of stuff, and they're like, yeah, no, that's not how they do it in the show.
No.
So it's like, oh, that's good, that's great. So that's like all I knew about it. Going into it, I remember messaging you and telling you, or even saying it to you at one point, that I didn't know there was other people in this world. I thought The Last of Us was legitly just two people just surviving it, like kind of like I Am Legend level of stuff. That's what I thought it was going to be.
I thought the same way before, when I actually heard about this game. It was like right at peak PS3, like 2000, I think 8 or something like that.
Okay.
And I was like, I wasn't really looking at the game on my radar at all. So this is actually really funny. So last week we did the Jinx, and the person that told me to watch the Jinx was my buddy Wayne. We were going to a movie. How I learned how to play Last of Us was I was driving to a movie theater with my buddy Wayne, and we started talking about games, and he was like, dude, have you played Last of Us? And I was like, no, I didn't see any interest in it. I'm not really into like, the peeking type game stuff where you like hide. It was kind of like Uncharted. It's made from Naughty Dog. It's the same thing. It was, it has the same mechanics as Uncharted, and kind of Gears of War-ish in a way, like the cover fire stuff. I wasn't, I'm not really into that kind of stuff. So then he was like, look, man, that was probably the best story game I played in 10 years. And I was like, really? And he's like, you have to play it. I know you love it. So I was like, all right. So I ended up getting a copy of it off of my buddy Joey, and I blasted through that game because I was a single dude living in like a 1-bedroom house, and I had no internet whatsoever at that place, and it was awful. And I remember just staying up every night. That's actually how I played Dead Space and I played Last of Us, is because those were those two games that like I had no internet, no TV or anything. All I had was video games. And I blasted through Last of Us, and I remember, like, I remember that this was the only video game that ever gave me emotion, like where I felt like despair, like I felt like, like I just, it gave me these weird emotions. Like speaking of this, you guys watched the first episode where Joel, and his daughter and Tommy are trying to escape Houston. And at the end of it, Joel's daughter gets shot. That is exactly how it happens in the video game, and you don't expect it. And the translation that they did from this video game to the screen is so well done, and Pedro Pascal does it so well. Like, I was so happy when I did. I felt it again. And how I love watching people's reaction to this art, because it cracks me up, because React Channel, if you guys remember the Fine Brothers, made the adults and I think the teenagers play the first act of that game, and watching their reactions was like one of the greatest things ever, because they're like, what? No way. She died? What's going on here? It's just, I don't know. I just feel like this game developed into a very well told story, and they showed emotion well. Now, if you go back now and try to play the original, the graphics kind of make it weird. But overall, like, I think that they did really well with transitioning that. And the thing is like, I told you to watch the first episode. I was like, you have to watch the first episode, because I knew they were going to kill her. And I was like, yep, they're going to do exactly the same thing. And that's going to be all over the internet if trolls are there. And I was actually going to ask you now, because now since you have watched it, like, what did you think of that scene? Like, did you expect it to happen? I could see like people noticing how it's going to happen now, because it's been done so many times. But I feel like maybe this made you laugh, or it had an impact, or what did you feel at that moment?
Okay, sorry, you were going on like a mild like rant right there. And so first off, Berkey, good to see you, man. We're doing good. We're streaming, and we're glad that you're here, man. Sorry, I just didn't want him to feel like we weren't talking. It's like, oh, Austin is in the zone right now, talking and all that, which is solid, great. And second off, Austin, you didn't hear this because you were not listening to the background music in it, but I forgot to loop our background music. And IO Play video started, and it was of Markiplier, which is weird enough because we're doing In Space Markiplier next time.
Oh, Burke.
And it just started with this like gameplay that Markiplier started saying. It's like, I'm gonna give you a smooch. And it's just real loud, and I was like, what the heck is that? And then I looked down and I was like, oh no. And that's why I changed, and that's why I started laughing, because I'm like, I can't believe that's what showed up, because it could have been anything else. It just had to be just him yelling that. Okay. Nice. No, appreciate. living life and moving on. Like that's how life goes.
That's how it is pretty much now.
Okay, Austin. Sorry, didn't mean to go on those tangents. I just really wanted to pull attention to that just because it's gonna be funny, because that is going to stay in. But Austin, about the whole like first episode. I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't expect the star to go through. Oh, hey man, we are spoiling the whole show. So if you want to stick around, feel free. But I would recommend you dipping if you're only on episode 2, my man.
Yeah.
That is because that's what we do. We basically, like, every week we say a show and then we watch the season and then we go into it. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you might want to head out, but we appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you so much.
If you're going to do that, but if you're going to stick, spoiler warning. But no, like for the first episode itself, I was very I knew like the Dara wasn't going to live. I just like you said in the very beginning, I'm just like, man, I don't know what to say. Like, it's so obvious that this is coming, especially because like I knew that there was another girl and it wasn't his daughter. So it's like either his daughter dies or they survive, but something happens that there's some form of. All right, good night, mate. But like it's like one of those things that's like, okay, something's going to happen here, and sure enough, something happened, and it was like a very emotional scene. Like I had that moment, especially when he's like crying and saying like my baby girl, look at me, type deal thing. Like that was very emotionally fueled. Was it enough to make me cry? No. I felt something, like I felt emotion, but because it was kind of like fast paced, and especially with Tommy in the background being like, we gonna go, she dead, leave her, they go. Like it kind of killed the emotional get to that, and like I said, the predictability of it happening was a killer for it. But I mean, it was still a great scene, and you mentioned before about Pedro. Like, I think Pedro's acting really sells a lot of his stuff, and so yeah, no, I totally I got that from the first episode. Also, I don't know if they like aged him up in the show, like they like gave him makeup to make him look older, or they de-aged him for this episode. Because he looked pretty young, like he did not look very old, and I don't think Pedro's that old looking, but he looked like fresh face, young.
Yeah, they had to age him up a little bit, like I think so.
I mean, maybe that's what it is. But yeah, no, first episode pretty solid, pretty great. I enjoyed it. It wasn't until after that episode that things started going. Like I think the first episode was great because you got to see like the collapse of everything, which was a lot better than I thought. I realized that most shows do. A lot of shows will do the whole like collapse of society that is just very like and chaos erupted and everyone started eating everything. This one makes complete sense because the amount of bread and grain that we
flour,
eat in like all countries would instantly take out at least 90% of the population. Easy. And the only people who are left over are all those people trying to go in Atkins. But granted, I think it's a little different, especially if it's like only a single grain production site in the world that has it. That makes sense, because that's basically what they said, is that it happened in a single grain production site and that got shipped everywhere and cross-contaminated a lot. But yeah, first episode, pretty good. Second episode, whenever we started getting introduced to different characters of the world, and I found out that there are more humans than just the two of them. It kind of made sense, because my brain's like, oh, I thought what it was going to be is that it was just him by himself, and he runs in and finds this random girl. Just like, well, dang, who are you? I'll take care of you, young girl. That actually doesn't make much sense. Yay, we're gonna do all this stuff. Um, my honest thought, Austin, when you were playing the game, did you predict the ending?
No.
Okay, I predicted the ending pretty early on.
Yeah, I could guess that, because the thing is like, you also have to take in
I
consideration.
think I also told you that I predicted that, because I said that there was two big things about this show, like two big ways that this show will end. And
yeah,
I
but
think
you never revealed it to me though. You just said I think there's two different ways.
I'm pretty sure I did, because we were in the call with Paris and you. Whenever we did the one watch party of the one episode, and I'm like, there's two ways that this show is going to end. It will, because I brought up Halo. All right, well, we'll get to that when we get to that. But you were saying, Austin, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, I didn't predict it because at the time, it wasn't like something that really was done before. Because this game came out in like 2009, 2010, and I played it in 2011, 2010. So like, it wasn't like anything that was ever put in a video game. And the thing was I didn't expect it to happen. I was like, holy crap, like, wow, why? And then you realize why. Like, this person does not want to get over the grief of losing someone else that he is like cares for, and the world to him is Ellie. It's not the world anymore, it's Ellie. And I kind of, I was kind of like shocked when I played the game, because it's like, holy crap, like, why? And then even the part where he lies to her, I thought he would like tell her the truth. Like, he was like, hey, actually in reality those guys were going to kill you and this would happen. But and then she like straight up looked at him and was like, tell me it's true, tell me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true. And he straight up lies to her and says, yes, I told you everything, the truth. And foreshadow. But the thing is I can understand why you kind of predicted the ending, because there's been so much in between that time period of the game and and like the show coming out, that like you could have guessed it. Like, at the time I was playing it, I wasn't guessing that at all. I thought like, oh, they were gonna find a cure. But once they revealed, like at the end of the episode, at the end of the game, where he was like, we have to kill her to get the vaccine, and because it's a neuro thing, that's when I said, oh dude, Joel's not gonna allow that. Because I knew how he felt about what happened with his little girl, and him experiencing because the thing is one key moment in the show that I really like how they point out in the show compared to the video game is baby girl. The episode where Ellie goes into the town and she finds I forget what's his name, the guy that's a cannibal. When she kills him, walks out of the burning building, you hear Pedro Pascal, like Joel, come up and hug Ellie, and he's like, baby girl, it's gonna be okay. That's what he called his daughter. So like that, at that point, it showed us how much he really cared for her. And like, Ellie wasn't just a package anymore. She wasn't cargo. She was someone that he wants to stay with. Like, she has become part of his life. And she was the shining light that was trying to like teach Joel that like, there's still people out there that care and love you, and that, but then when you mess with someone and say, hey, I'm taking away someone that you really care about, and he has no one left anymore except for Tommy. And kind of Tommy, he doesn't really know his brother as much, because like they do that.
No, it's because he's a communist.
He's a commie. I like how they brought that up. That was really good.
It made me laugh.
It did. It made me laugh too. And then also we get to see like Joel struggling with his, him not getting over his love for his daughter. Because like in that episode also too, is we get to see him like kind of give a vision of like, he thinks that it's his daughter, but somebody else in the town of Jackson. And I just feel like, you could predict it from the show. From the video game when it first came out, I don't think he would have got it. But, it's just...
So let me explain why...
Also, you're really good at predicting stuff sometimes. I will state that. Like, you're really good at that.
So So the reason why I predicted this is because of the Halo graphic novels, which I was very sure I pointed out to you. At the end of Halo, you see Johnson on the Halo and he's fighting the Covenant, and it ends with him being like, "Give me some sugar," and they hug, and the ring blows up. But then in the second game, he's in the second game, and people are like, "Wait, no, he died." They released a graphic novel in between the first game and the second game called First Strike, and it takes place in between. It's how Master Chief gets back to Earth, where number 2 begins. In it, Johnson's on the ship with him, and he pulls a gun on Johnson. Is like, "How are you alive? I saw you die." And he's like, "I don't know what to tell you, Chief. I'm alive. Those things attacked me. They jumped me. I didn't turn like everyone else. I can't explain it." And through the course of the book, it's like Master Chief not understanding and not trusting this individual. And then finally, after so long of being with him, he starts trusting Johnson. And Cortana does an internal scan and finds out that, and through looking through records and everything, that the Flood takes over someone through their neuron, like their nervous system. That's how it connects. That's why anytime you see in the game that a Flood takes over someone, they jump onto the back of their neck and then crawl inside, and then they come to life as the Flood. Johnson, and she points this out in the book, is part of the Spartan 1 project, which Master Chief is part of the Spartan 2. He's part of the Spartan 1s. And one of the things they did during that experimentation is plasma bombardment, which killed his whole nervous system. And because his nervous system was killed, the Flood could not take him over. And at the end of the book, when they're about to get to Earth and they see Earth in the distance, Cortana gives him a disc, or has him go to a disc that she prepares. And she's like, "Look, this is all the information I have on Johnson. Here's the thing. If you do your directive and you give this to a superior officer, you know for a fact you're killing Johnson." Because they will not just look at Johnson and be like, "Take this information, use it." They will kill him. They will do autopsies. They will look into him, and to understand both the Flood and him. By doing this, they will kill Johnson. Or 2, you cannot kill this. You cannot. You can destroy this, and not let him die, and possibly doom the rest of the world. And Master Chief takes the disc and breaks it, and he's like, I can't willingly kill one of my soldiers, essentially. And that's how it ends. And effectively, especially at the beginning of Halo 2, whenever the Flood is still around, there's an easy perception mindset that Master Chief could have, that he's like, I could doom the whole world because of it. And so whenever I was watching this show, and especially there was 2 big things that made me come to that conclusion, that that's how it was going to end. That pretext, and that's always been in my head, this idea of freaking can't kill one of my soldiers, or I can't kill someone that means something to me. And when it began with Ellie, with Joel being so cold to her and being like, "You're just cargo," you're just reiterating it, I'm like, he's going to get attachment. He's going to become attached to her. And the second he becomes attached to her, that's whenever they'll get to the end and find out that he has to kill her, and he can't do it. He won't do it. And sure enough, that's exactly what it was. And so I'm like, those were the 2 things that drove me to that idea and that thought process. Because you don't create a world or a story or whatnot where a character does not like another character, or views them only as something that they slowly become super attached to and won't let go. You know what also is like that? Mandalorian season 1. Here's the thing. After I finished this, I started getting a bunch of TikToks on my feed about Pedro Pascal's and his daddy movies. Almost everything he's been in is daddy. With Mandalorian, Last of Us, Game of Thrones, all daddy issues. It's just him with his child. And it's hilarious. And in The Mandalorian, he does the same thing. He refused to give up Grogu to these people once he finds out that they would kill him. And it's like, wow, man, I don't know if Pedro Pascal is just being typecast or if he's looking for these roles, but he's getting them. Oh boy, is he getting them. But yeah, so that was that. But the one thing I will say about this, and I'll say my final piece at the end of the podcast, but the journey to that had a lot of great ups and downs and a lot of changes. You know, like, love the Nick Offerman episode 3.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this, but that is not part of the game.
That's
really.
not,
like, that story is not.
That is something that I found out on TikTok later. Someone did a side-by-side comparison of what you see of this character in the game versus what he is in the show. And I was like, I'm happy they did that, actually. Because even though I understand why people would like the game version of him, I felt like it was just a better character story, which translates better on screen.
I feel like it's a double-edged sword with that, because the reason why is the Nick Offerman episode is really good. Do not deny that I love that episode. I think Nick Offerman great, and I like the background story they gave Frank. But Frank in the game, why I really enjoy Frank and why I think Frank is a good story part is because Frank is the one that actually teaches Ellie a lot of things, and he like directs her to a certain like thinking to survive. And he like helps her, because like through the whole when you play through the game, the only way that you find Frank is Frank actually owns a whole town. He doesn't own it, he just sets up so many booby traps in the town, so you have to like go through the town looking for Frank, like sneaking under like little like, you know, these traps and stuff. And you know, when you finally meet Frank, you know, Frank is living in like his home, and then you come to find out that like his lover was actually there with him, but he hasn't seen him in a while. And he ends up like over at his house, his buddy's house, and he has killed himself, like hung himself, because he doesn't want to live in this crazy world anymore. But you know, it was but the thing is why I actually like the Nick Offerman one more is because I like how they went in depth with him. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, Frank, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Like Frank is gay, and I'm like, Frank was gay in the game. Like, do you not listen to that dialogue they talks about? I've saw a lot of people on Reddit like complaining about that, and I'm like, no, like he was that way in the game. Like, I don't get why you guys are having a problem with it now.
Well, of what I've seen about it, the game could be interpreted not that way, but basically how it was intended. So unless you are aware of it, the other term is, unless you are so much not wanting to see that, you won't, you would see it. Because like,
you know, because he says partner.
Yeah, he says partner. He says partner.
That makes sense.
And so people who don't want to be like, oh, partner as like, you know,
partner in crime,
significant other, and more of like, oh, partner like he runs this town with him. It goes off that way. But the look on Joel's face whenever he realizes it's partner makes like people be like, he cared for this person in a different way than So yeah, with the whole episode of Nick Offerman, because like that's the thing. As much as Pedro Pascal is typecast, Nick Offerman is also typecast pretty freaking hard. When he showed up and he's like a anti-government, gun-crazed, I love steaks and wine guy, I was like, this is literally his character from Parks and Rec. This is just down to the note, just his character. And then the other guy shows up, and it's like, okay, okay. So that's where this is going. It was great. It was good. Like, it was a solid episode. I enjoyed it. It was a nice little like change from the Joel and Ellie, and it made it even more like sadder / bittersweet whenever they got there and they were just too late to see them on their last day. And I think they would have really been happy to see them. But you know, at the same time, like I watched the after credit synopsis video, like the behind the scenes where they talk about it, and the guy's like, it's not supposed to be a sad episode. It is a sad episode. but these are the two people in this world who got to live their life like to their fullest. Like, they got to enjoy it. Was there ups and downs? For sure, but they got to live their life. And I'm like, yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. They got to live, they had happy lives, and they chose to go out the way they wished to. And that's cool. Solid.
But I'd like to say what my favorite episode of the season was.
Okay.
Was Endure and Survive. It was the story.
I don't know any of the.
Okay, it's when Joel and Ellie meet up with two brothers that are running from a girl named Catherine.
Oh yeah, the girl from 2.5 Men. Yeah.
Yeah, the girl who plays Rosa. And I want to bring this up. People that are not fans of the game or have not played the game, there is some of the voice actors from the game that are part of the show. Jeffrey Pierce is in that episode. Jeffrey Pierce plays Catherine's right-hand man with the beard. He actually plays Nick Offerman's character in the game. Frank.
Oh, okay.
So he actually plays him. And then later on in a couple episodes, the guy that's friends with the cannibal mayor, that is Troy Baker, and he plays Joel. The guy that gets like the
machete. The cleaver. Cleaver. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's Troy Baker. He's the voice.
That's the guy who does. Okay.
And then the last episode, the mother of Ellie is Ashley Johnson, who plays Ellie in the video game. And you know Ashley Johnson very well because you know Vox Machina, Critical Role, and what women want. I forgot that she was in that.
Yeah, that's how I know her. Fun fact.
Yeah.
And this is a weird fun fact. I'm going to dox myself for saying this. Not really dox, but when I was little, and we were like, I was only like 10 when What Women Want came out or whatnot, right? I remember watching that and being like, she's cute. Like, I legitimately said that to myself whenever I was watching it. And there's the scene where she's crying in the restroom. For some reason, like, her face was encapsulated with that in my head. Years later, when I went to BNY, and my friend told me about Critical Role, and I started watching it, and I watched one single episode, and she started talking, and I looked at her, I'm like, she in What Women Wants? Is that the girl from What Women Wants? Sure enough.
Yep.
That's who she was. And I was like, holy cow, I can't believe I remember. Like, I've seen that movie whenever I was like 10 and no other time. And that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
It was legitimately like a funny thing that as I was, like anytime I see Ashley Johnson now, I'm just like, What Women Wants? That's a, like, I know you've done other great things. I know for a fact.
Oh, yeah.
But What Women Wants?
Yeah, that was your first role. That we remember. I know that. She's done a lot of great things. So the other thing is, so back to the episode I was talking about, the Endure and Survive episode. That episode, I remember playing in the game, and it hurt me when, you know, it was predictable that his brother was going to kill himself at the end, because his younger brother turns. I just think the interactions that happen with characters and how they develop like an emotional thing. And I liked that they picked a real deaf character, like a real deaf person to play a deaf character. And I was really excited to see that because Sam, the guy that the kid that plays Sam, I don't know how to pronounce his, like Kevin Woodward.
Okay.
He did really well. I felt like emotional at that time when, you know, like his brother's suffering from this cut. But that episode is so like heavy, action driven too. It was well done. Very well done. I've been wanting to see the bloater for a long time, and people don't know this, but like they only showed the bloater one time. The bloater is something to be reckoned with because in the game, the only way to kill a bloater is by fire or explosions. So, you know, in the game, you would have to craft weapons out of things that you find. You don't just like find a cocktail. Usually, you need like some, you know, like there's these.
Oh no, man! I think.
Bombs. There's these bombs in the game where you have to collect cans and nails and then like some other like gunpowder and stuff, and you can use them and throw them and they'll explode full of nails and stuff. Also too is Last of Us was very graphic as a PS3 game because like, you know, watching people get limbs blown off and like people like you'd shoot someone, they'd be like, no, don't kill me, and you could walk up and just end them. It was just like that kind of story that was driven, and
Finish them.
a lot more people are going to start playing Last of Us because the remaster comes out tomorrow for Steam Part 1. So
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm going to pick it up myself because I haven't played the remastered version of it. I know that they like redid some things and did better than the gameplay before. And I actually think that this episode was the best episode out of the season. I really enjoyed it. I like the emotions and I like the action that was happening. And I just like the bloater ripping someone in half. That was great. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do with the show. But I also am ready to see like if they're going to go with season 2 being part 2, because part 2,
I think they already said that they were. I think they already said that.
It's just they already announced that Bella Ramsey is returning. They are.
Oh,
not
did
going
they?
to
Did they announce? I thought I read
they're not
the
going to time
opposite.
jump her.
That
I'm pretty
Bella
sure
is because here's the thing about Bella. She's not like 14. I think she's like 20 or something like that. Like she's lower. I remember her from Game of Thrones season 7, and my brain's like, she's like a little kid. Like she's only 14. But that was also almost 10 years ago that she was in Game of Thrones. I don't actually know how old is Bella right now.
It looks like she is.
I also think they prefer they. I could be wrong about that.
She is age 19.
19. Okay. So yeah, the young adult. And so if it takes about 2 years to film and everything of that sort, I think they could pull it off pretty well. I think they'd be, because I also know, like, I didn't know the time skip in The Last of Us. Like the show of The Last of Us, the time skip was almost 20 years. They did a large time skip. And I don't know if that's the same in the game.
In Last of Us, it's 5 years. It's a 5-year jump.
So it's a 5 years jump in the game. They make it 20 years. That's more reasonable to me with how like corrupted the world kind of became quickly. So like that's all solid. That's all Cheerios to me, mate. I think they'll do fine. I think they'll be great.
Well, they said that they were not going to do a time jump. Okay. I just read an article that they're not going to do a time jump like House of Dragons was with Ragnar or whatever her name is.
Yeah. Rhaenyra jump. Yeah, but that's also because they wanted to have multiple actors to show, because that's the thing. House of Dragon also takes place in the matter of like 20 years plus. And so the time skip needed to happen because they couldn't just show them all as like 14-year-olds for the next so that's fine. I like Bella Ramsey. I think they are very good actors and they can do it. And like you were talking about the kid episode with the brothers. That was a really sad episode. I will admit that was a sad episode. I think the realization that the brother shoots his younger brother and then shoots himself, I was kind of like, yeah, that's kind of how it goes. It kind of sucks because they went that whole way only for it to not work. And then it really messed with Ellie, because she thought she could possibly try to heal her with the blood. And I like that Joel basically told her, it's like, it's probably more complicated than that. And they make note of why it's more complicated later in the series, which I appreciated that. Not direct callback, but reference to prior. I think those are the two standout episodes most of the time when I think about this series. Is those two?
I do feel the only gripe I have, I feel like the last episode, the final episode, felt rushed. I think it felt a little bit too rushed. I think that they should have done the whole hospital as like a whole episode. But I was really excited to see a scene from the game that I didn't think they were going to bring into the game, and that is the giraffes. So there is a part where in the game, it actually happens pretty early, I think after they get out of Pittsburgh, some of the locations are not the same.
Yeah, I know. I was pretty
game.
upset when I found out they went to Pittsburgh, and I was like, man, I would
Kansas
have
City
loved.
instead of
The
Pittsburgh.
last star that came
Yeah.
here was freaking Jason Momoa, and I'm like, I ran into him accidentally. I could have done the same to Pedro. You know how
Yeah.
hard that would make me happy to see Pedro Pascal. I wanted that. I wanted to just run
man.
into.
But the thing is, I feel the giraffe scene is this part in the game where, like, you know, you're going through all this dark tone stuff. You know, she just got out of the whole, you know, killing that preacher dude, and you know she's developing something different, which they did kind of in the show, but it was you know, there's a lot of other stuff that they just cut because they were like, there's no use of this. But the giraffes are showing like an innocent that, you know, Joel sits there and interacts with the giraffe for Ellie because Ellie hasn't been normal, like what she's been used to, where she's like this carefree person. She becomes like this, holy crap, I just went through a traumatic event, I don't know how to deal with this in a certain way because I was part of it, that I didn't think this stuff existed, like cannibalism and like people suffering. And the giraffe, I remember watching this episode with my with our buddy Paris, and he was like, dude, that giraffe is CGI, and I was like, I think so too. Then I saw a TikTok of it, and actually the giraffe is real, the background is CGI'd. But the scene is so set up well, and they did it great from the translation from the video game, that is to show that like Joel is still trying to protect the innocence of Ellie. And I liked the whole scene that they did, and like it was happy and going. But the hospital, why I brought this up is because in the hospital, when you play the game, it is the hardest thing you can ever play in a game, because what happens is you have to go through and kill everyone because you're trying to get to Ellie before they kill her. And then when you do, you have to pick up Ellie and walk her through a hospital that's full of enemies. So you have to drop her multiple times and be like, hey, you know, here. And the thing is like, I felt like it was like very quick. Now they did do correct. They did kill, what's her name?
Marlene.
Marlene. They killed her correctly. She was in a, you know, they were looking for a car or truck to escape in the parking lot. And I remember playing this part of the game and being like, oh man, Joel's gonna let her go. And then like after shot, I was like, nope, Joel's not gonna let her go at all. I was like, he is stuck in that zone of like, he cares so much for Ellie that he doesn't want anyone to hurt her. And she's like his daughter now. So I think that the episode was a little rushed. I feel like they could have took their time cinematically and like put in more of that story. I would have been okay with it, but I was not really happy with like how they paced that episode. I think all the episodes are great paced, and then that episode just kind of paced out a little bit, and I was just like, I don't know.
Can I tell you my personal thoughts?
Yeah. No, you may not.
Okay, fair enough.
Just kidding.
So, what are we watching now? I personally feel like the ending suffered because of it being one season. I think they should have they should have made it 2 seasons. And the reason for it is because I did not feel like Joel started liking Ellie until about episode 6, 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ellie wasn't becoming full on like connected to Joel until about episode 5, maybe 8 a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel like it earned the bond that Joel had with her by the end of it, which would have made the ending hospital scene more dynamic. I think if it was me, I would have had season 1 end with them entering the Jackson, yeah. Jackson's town. Because they traveled a lot, and we missed a lot of opportunities that they could tell like more interesting stories or everything of that sort, and just show them bonding closer together. Even if they need to move around some events to like get the characters start like caring for each other now. I equate it to like how I feel about The Mandalorian. At the end of season 1 of The Mandalorian, Mando loves Grogu. Like he has officially started caring for the kid. And then season 2, whenever he has to like do all that stuff, like it kind of works out. I just felt like for the first 4-ish to 5 episodes, Joel did not like Ellie, or he didn't want to admit to liking her or anything of that sort. And he kind of like grew closer to her and closer to her, but we didn't get that feeling of them like becoming like very, very close until the last 3 episodes.
Yeah. And
I'm like, if it was just maybe like halfway through the season they got to that point, I think I would feel better about the ending. I kind of agree with you. I did feel like the hospital scene was pretty rushed. I also think that they should have had more scenes of Joel just shooting bystanders there. Because the most impactful, there was 2 deaths in that hospital that I felt were pretty impactful. And it was the guy who was putting down his gun, being like, all right, you can take her, whatever. And he just shoots him. And then when he goes into the medical room, it shoots the doctor too. And it's like, okay, cool. I think he should have killed both of the nurses as well. And it would have been like, oh my gosh. But it's like this mindset of like, you can't ever come for us because you don't have the people who could do this ever again. Like, I will stop it. So, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like he should have like massacred everyone, and then we should have had like a long 5-minute scene where Ellie is slightly coming to in the hospital, and it's just him walking and stepping over dead bodies of basically innocent people that he killed to save her. And it's like a metaphor for what he's doing to the world by not letting them do this cure. He's effectively being the one to shoot and kill all these innocent people by not willing to give her up.
I think also too is like, I think I would have been more gratified if they would have shot it how John Wick is kind of shot. If you've ever watched John Wick, it's very realistic. Okay. There's not like a lot of music going on, and when there is music going on, it's usually during like a, you know, like an environment that has music, like a rave or something like that. I feel like the action should be on beat instead of using music. And I think John Wick, if you ever get a chance, you should watch John Wick, because it looks like a stereotypical like just action film, but these are people that actually took their time to study combat and like produce a really good action film. And of course, Theon Greyjoy is in the first
Oh,
movie.
Really?
Yeah, he's the main character in the first movie. But you should get a chance. They're on HBO. I think if you watch John Wick, you'll understand what I mean by how the action beats work and how the violence works. It makes you feel like this person. So, spoiler a little bit. Okay, something happens to John Wick in the movie where it makes him feel lost, and then you come to find out who John Wick is, and then he goes on this massive killing spree. But they put this like environment around him where they're just like, he's a man of focus and he knows what he's doing. So like you fear him. So when you watch the movie, you feel this guy will do anything in his power to do what he needs to do to get this. And it's just a complete revenge tale, really, in reality. But I would love to see how they would have transitioned that with Joel, because that's how it felt in the game, where like Joel was ruthless in the game. Like in that game, that's when you saw the most graphic scenes in the video game, was the end. Like him literally, you know, there's like so many people in that hospital. So like you're popping in and out corners, just shooting someone with a shotgun and their head would be gone, you know, or like and then someone would scream, be like, oh my gosh, you know, and stuff like that. Like I didn't feel like that. It just felt like this like slow paced music shooting action thing type. I just didn't feel like he was like, there was an urgency to him. Like he was like, oh my gosh, I need her. I just felt like it wasn't done correctly.
Well, and see, like that's part of the thing about the setup to it.
Yeah.
Like whenever they set up that, it's like she's getting prepped to go into surgery.
Yeah.
That was like, oh, prepping for a surgery can take hours.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not that big deal. If they would be like, we're about to, she's going into surgery now, like she or all this stuff, and then they did that, I think it would work. But if they would have said that and then showed this, I think it would have been monstrous. Why it's like it's so slow paced and all that.
Yeah, it just felt slow.
I had no issue with that ending with like him going through there at all. I had no thing. I still say that it should have that we needed more time with just Joel and Ellie. That
it didn't feel
together.
like, and I think the thing is as a viewer you should have that type of bond because then you care about the characters, and I feel like this was rushed, and I think it's because of it could be two things. It could be one, HBO, because we know lately HBO Max has not been doing good, and HBO and period has not been doing good because
they've been doing fine.
Oh,
HBO Max, their president is a piece of trash.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And he's like, hey, we need to not have to give money for taxes, so we're going to cut a bunch of things so that way we can mark them as loss on our taxes, so we don't have to pay taxes this year. That's exactly what he did.
Oh no,
it's not about HBO doing bad. It's just him being like, we can save a bunch of money by just killing off these things.
I think what it is they gave him a small budget and was like, here, work with it. Because
I'm pretty sure they gave him a big budget.
I don't think.
This is my thing, right? This is why I think it is. I think that they did 9 episodes because I think they were really trying to connect this show to that of The Mandalorian. Like, I hate to say this, I feel like Mandalorian season 1 and this show have very similar pacing and very similar setup. I think Pedro Pascal freaking carries the show a lot. But then, like, halfway through, Bella Ramsey came out of nowhere and surprised me, and she started carrying. Like, there was some great, fantastic episodes in this show. But, you know, of the 9 episodes that you get of Ella and Joel, one episode, Ella's not in at all. There's the episode with Nick Offerman, which they're both not in at all, really, except for the end. You have the episode with the pastor dude that Joel is basically catatonic for almost the whole episode. So that's like 4 of the 9 episodes where they're not on screen together, growing and connecting with. And that's my only issue with it, I personally felt. Rushed? Maybe. I think that the director was trying to get like people to carry a lot of the weight on background information. Like, oh, you don't see it, but they've been traveling a lot. So like assume that they've become close to each other because of this. It's like, no, show that. I want to see that. I enjoy these characters. I think I would like to see, like, even if it's like half an episode is just downtime with them traveling and dealing with like issues or running upon things or finding stuff, was still interesting. When they go into that one place to get Joel's secret stash of weapons and they're just walking around looking at things, I'm like, solid, that's great, fantastic. I like that. I enjoyed that scene altogether. But yeah, that's my honest thought. I'll be excited for season 2. I know that there was backlash to it for some reason, and I don't know. I don't really know what. I just know that people were upset with like portrayals or something to that degree. But they also said like there was a bunch of like great storytelling. But my friend Andrew, our friend Andrew, whenever he talked about the game to me, I told him like I have no context for the game, but I would like to think about it. He's like, the people who are mad online are mad because the game forced you into a perspective that people weren't prepared for nor wanted.
Yeah.
And he's like, but that was the point of the game, was to force a perspective, not to just let you see one side of it. And so I was like, okay, that could mean a lot, but I definitely understand that mindset. You know, like it would be the equivalent of like having, well, no, they did, okay. Geez, I've been making a lot of parallels to like Halo and whatnot. Like it's like in Halo 2 with the Covenant or the Arbiter, where you're forced from the Arbiter's perspective, and you're like, you know, Arbiter's not that bad, and then you join your team, you're like, all right, fantastic, great. I think people would be honestly, that would have been now I'm like, it would have been great if they did the Flood's perspective. Like, gosh, I would love to play as the Flood for a game, which I think we did in the Zombies. But like the whole forcing perspective, I assume that's going to be an issue, and I'm like, we're not going to have that issue in a TV show, because there's a lot of perspectives we got in the TV show that I'm pretty sure weren't in the game. I could be wrong. I know the game was the game like first person, or no, it was third person.
It was third person.
But did you follow one person, or did you jump around characters?
There was only Joel and Ellie.
Okay, so you only jump between those two characters.
Yeah, because
okay.
in the second one, it's you know, I understand why people are upset, but really in reality, I don't.
Well,
I don't see the
for
problem
narrative
with it.
reasons, I care less, right?
Yeah.
If you make me play something for narrative reason, that's fine. Here's the thing. This is another one. Spider-Man. The PlayStation games, right? Playing those games, I love playing as Spider-Man, but there are episodes and times where you play as Miles or Mary Jane. And I remember talking with my friend.
They ruined the game.
No, I disagree. I thought it was great. I think from the gameplay perspective, people can see it as they ruined the game, because it's like, I want to play as Spider-Man. I'm like, but for the first time playing, when you're doing it, those were great perspectives. I loved being like Mary Jane or like Miles, and like cloning through, and then like when I see a villain, just be like, oh no, he's gonna see me, and then Spider-Man just sweeps down and takes it. It's like, this is a cool perspective. Hate it during the second playthrough. Like, that was boring. Like, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna.
Are you still there? I can't hear you. I can see you, but I can't hear you. I think it's his mic. Everyone, it's Josiah's mic.
I don't know, Austin.
I don't know. You must have like flicked something or whatever.
I guess I was picking up on my side, but
that was weird.
maybe I had some like issue or whatever. Oh well, hey, we record this live, so what can you
do? Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think it was good perspective change. So
yeah.
I don't know exactly what it is. I assume it's like a bad guy perspective, so my thought process would be bad guy perspective, or like Fedra perspective, or no, Firefly at this point, because I assume now at the end of season 1 they're going to be #1 hit list for Fireflies, because they just murder a bunch of things. However, if it was a small includes people, no one knows.
Well, one of the main characters in like part 2, actually, their voice actor was in this part of this show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they kind of like snuck it in, but people saw it. They were like, hey, one of the nurses that was in like the final scene where the nurses are like, prepping Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that voice actor. I'm not gonna say what the name of that character is.
I know who that voice actor is, because someone on TikTok pointed it out. Where they're like, wait, is that Laura Bailey?
Yeah, Laura Bailey plays a certain character in part 2 of Last of Us, and they were like, hey, they kind of stuck that in. And I think I know, like, since they did that, I hope they go. I really, really, really hope that they go with the thing that I'm thinking that should happen for part 2 or season 2. It would be so awesome, because I think it would drive home like the whole narrative in part 2 of Last of Us. So yeah.
Okay. Well,
we'll see.
We'll see. I again never played either of those games, so it's like I don't have a lot of context. And great. That's kind of like my thoughts and feelings on Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
I think it was a solid show. I really liked it. It was very like beautiful, how to say it, and the pacing was good, but for the ending to happen, I felt like we needed more time of Ellie and Joel together. And that's my only issue that I had. Also, I would just love to see more episodes with Pedro Pascal. I just like Pedro Pascal. You've ever seen that meme of like the Olympic swimmer in the water, and he's like pouring water over him? It's like, that's Pedro Pascal to people right now. It's like they're swimming in Game of Thrones, Mandalorian season 1, 2, and Book of Boba Fett, and then it's like Last of Us is pouring onto him with another ball in the background saying Mandalorian.
Seen Kingsman 2? Yeah, he was. And
Okay.
I just watched his movie with Nicolas Cage, The Extreme Weight of
the
Talent.
one where he's just like like smiling
Yeah,
from the
I
meme.
finally watched it because I was like, I have to watch this because I know the meme, and it is phenomenal. If you guys have not watched The Big Weight of the Extreme Will Talent or whatever, you should go watch it. It is amazing, and the best part about it is Pedro actually bought everyone on set a Nicolas Cage pillow and handed it back to him. And it was one of those ones where it like flips the photo when you like, you know, you pull it down, it goes to a different photo, and then you flip it up. Like, have you ever seen those like pillows that do that?
Nope.
Yeah, there's like this pillow that has like these weird like petals on it.
Oh,
and it has a
okay,
picture,
yeah, I know.
And then you go like this, and it wipes up, and it becomes another picture. Yeah, he did the same thing.
Okay. The no, I watched the Hot Ones.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
And he brought up the pillow thing, and so I was like, okay, apparently he was on set with Nicolas Cage, and he made pillow.
Yeah.
I thought he only made one pillow, but he made a bunch.
Yeah,
so that's
supposedly he
hilarious.
gave the whole cast pillows.
Which
and
that's great. Like,
yeah.
I think Pedro Pascal would just be one of the best people to meet in person, to just be like, hey man, love your work, you're great.
Yeah.
Go get a beer or something like that. Like, that would be fantastic. I think he would be a very fun individual too. Especially after watching that Hot Ones episode, I was like, man, he's super charming, man. He's too charming. Can do it. All right, Austin. I think that basically covers us for frozen shows of The Last of Us. Austin.
Yes.
Next week.
What are we watching next week? It is your turn.
Next week. So I had a lot of thoughts on what to do. I wrote down a couple ones that I should do, and I completely left them at my work and never went back to it. And I forgot, or I threw it away. It could be here. I have a bunch of like papers from work, but I don't know what's on them because I didn't look, and I should have probably looked around for that actually. But one of the things I wanted to watch is a little unorthodox. It is something that when it came out, I was one of the people who like started watching the second it dropped. I was waiting on the deadline drop for it. It's akin to the choose your own adventure books of old, whenever we were like growing up, where like, what's your options here, A, B, or C? If you chose A, go to page 32. If you chose B, you go to page 48, blah 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 blah. It is a series that's on YouTube. It's a YouTube original that was planned for a while ago, and he does a lot of these, and this one specifically is called Markiplier in Space. Now, of course, it's the YouTuber Markiplier. Some people love him, some people don't like him. I personally love him. I think he's absolutely enjoyable. I find him freaking enjoyable, him and his friends, when they get together and they play. But that's what we're going to be watching next week, and we're going to do the whole series, part 1 and part 2, because when Markiplier in Space came out, they dropped the first part and made you like play through it, like go through it, and then they waited a couple months and then dropped the second part for you to finish it. And I thought, well, we could do one go of the two together, because they're not long. Like each of the different videos are only about, I would say, about 3 to 4, maybe 5 minutes long as you're watching and doing it. Now, there are the occasional like 15-minute ones, 20-minute ones, but it's kind of like they're just short and small and in between, since we're already used to watching almost 9 episodes of 30 minutes or 40-minute long thing. Like 3 or 4 videos of 20 minutes is nothing for us. So we can do the whole series, and we can just do one big old one-off to do it. The one thing I will encourage, you could watch this and do one full playthrough and finish. I would encourage everyone to try to find all the different videos. And one way you could do to buy that, first time watching, just do one play, just one way through. Just enjoy the video that you could get and what you come up with from making the things. The second time, start cheating a little bit. Like, watch the first episode and then like tab the 2 different videos to get each of them, and then like see where it goes. Because when I watched it originally, I did one full playthrough. I did a couple full playthroughs of it, only to find out in one of the videos I did not select, and it took me into this like completely alternate reality scene that blew my mind. It was so enjoyable and so hilarious to me. I'm like, man, I missed this my first time watching it, and I very much want people to do that. So
I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna write down exactly what I get my first playthrough.
Yeah.
And then we'll discuss then.
We can discuss at that point.
But this is not the first time I've ever done a playthrough type deal thing like this.
Okay.
Actually.
Which one did you do before?
Netflix came out with one called Bandersnatch.
Yeah. So whenever this came out, there was so I listened to their podcast, Distractable. And when Markiplier in Space came out, they did an episode about Distractable. And one of the things they talked about was Bandersnatch being a choose your own adventure thing. And they're like, yeah, it was kind of like Bandersnatch. But Markiplier did it first because here's the funny thing. This is Markiplier in Space. He's already done a heist with Markiplier, which is its own thing. And then also a date with Markiplier. And then I think there's another one too. Like he does a bunch of these choose your own adventures. And the best part about this is he will also do hidden ones in other videos that are just by themselves.
Okay.
And there's a couple I may like look into and find which ones they are and then tell you, because I know one of them is at the end, at the end of an Inscription episode that you can find. But there's a lot of like goofs and gags and references to him as a channel. And the things he cares about. And I know, Austin, that you watch him, but you're not like a super big fan of him. So we'll see what you can find, what you know about, and what you don't know about, and we can go from there.
All right.
So that's what we're watching next week. And it's on YouTube. It's 100% free. Go enjoy it. Have fun clicking on all the different links. Enjoy the story. It's very clean, so you don't have to worry about like language, violence, and things like that. There is one scene where it's kind of like innuendo based, and it's funny, but it's still like one of those things. Like it's tasteful is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
So all right, awesome. That's it for Bros and Shows this week. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode, and thank you all so much for stopping by, and thank you all so much for tuning in.